I still remember the morning it all began. Not because something dramatic happened outside. Not because the sky opened up or the world shook. But because of the simple vibration on my phone. One tiny sound. That ended the life I thought I had. It was 6:47 a.m. I was still half asleep, still believing my world was safe. I reached for my phone without thinking, expecting some routine message from my team or maybe a reminder about a meeting. But instead, I saw a notification I had never seen before. Your ownership transfer request has been approved. At first, my brain didn't even understand what I was looking at. Ownership transfer? Approved? By who? I sat up in bed, heart suddenly pounding. My company wasn't just a job. It was 6 years of my life. 6 years of late nights, early mornings, failures, comebacks, and quiet victories. It was my dream, my identity. The one thing no one else ever had control over. So why? Why would there be a transfer request? I opened the message with shaking hands. And the words staring back at me felt like a punch straight to the chest. Transfer of 37% company shares finalized. My shares. My stake, almost half of my own company. Gone. My heart dropped. I scrolled down fast, hoping it was some glitch, some mistake, anything I could explain away. Then I saw the authorization form, and there it was. My signature, accept. It wasn't mine. My name was written in perfect strokes, clean lines, familiar shapes, but not familiar enough. It didn't feel like something I touched. It felt copied. A cold wave ran through my body. Someone had signed for me. Someone who had access to my documents. Someone who knew where I kept my digital signature. Someone who understood exactly how important those shares were. My breathing stopped when I saw the second signature. Melissa, my wife, her name, printed neatly right next to the forged version of mine. Her initials at the bottom. Her approval stamped without hesitation. I just stared at the screen, unable to move, unable to think. Why would she do this? How long had she been planning something like this? Who helped her? Why now? A sick, heavy feeling settled in my chest. My own wife. Transferring my company shares behind my back? It didn't feel real. It didn't feel possible. But the document was there. The transfer was done. And in that moment, I made one quiet promise to myself. This betrayal ends in court. And justice wins. I didn't know how deep the lies went. I didn't know who else was involved. But I knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. If you had asked me a year before all this happened, I would have told you I had a pretty good life. Maybe not perfect, but close enough for someone like me. My name is Daniel, and I live in Austin, Texas. I run a tech company I built from scratch, one long night at a time. And back then, I thought I had love, stability, and a future I could trust. My wife, Melissa, was a real estate agent. Smart, charming, soft-spoken when she wanted to be, confident when she needed to be. People liked her instantly. Honestly, I liked her instantly too. We met at a networking event years ago. And she walked into my life like she already belonged there. Together, we built a home in Westlake. A place with wide streets, quiet mornings, and neighbors who smiled a little too perfectly. We had 2 dogs, weekends full of brunches, and evenings that looked calm from the outside. If someone had taken a picture of our life, it would have looked like a magazine cover. But pictures don't show everything. They don't show the tiny cracks forming underneath. It started small. A late night here, another late night there. A client dinner that stretched past midnight. A glance at her phone she quickly hid. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. I told myself she was just busy. Real estate is unpredictable, right? Houses go on the market at strange hours. Buyers want strange things. I'd heard that excuse so many times from her that I started believing it myself. But somewhere deep inside, something felt off. The turning point came one evening while we were making dinner. Nothing special, just pasta and a bottle of wine we opened, because why not? She was chopping vegetables when she casually said, "Oh, I met a new client today. His name's Ryan." I didn't think much of it. Real estate clients came and went. But something about the way she said his name stuck with me. Too soft, almost careful, I asked, "What's he looking for?" She shrugged. "Investment property. He's new to Austin. Seems successful. Knows a lot of people. Especially in tech." That should have made me pause. A stranger interested in tech in Austin. Asking questions about real estate and eventually about me. But I brushed it off. I didn't want to seem jealous or insecure. I trusted her. At least I trusted the version of her I thought I knew. Over the next few weeks, she mentioned Ryan's name more than I liked. Always casually. Always like it meant nothing. But the repetition, it built a knot in my stomach. Still, I pushed the feeling down. I reminded myself that marriage needed trust. That doubt destroys more homes than truth ever does. Looking back now, I wish I had listened to that tiny warning inside me. The red flags weren't loud. They didn't shout. They whispered. But betrayal always whispers. Right before it explodes. I didn't realize it at first. But Ryan's name started slipping into almost every conversation Melissa had with me. At breakfast, at dinner, while we watched TV, even during small talk. She'd say things like, "Ryan wants to see more properties," or "Ryan asked about Austin schools," or "Ryan thinks the market is shifting." At first, I just nodded along. But slowly, something inside me felt uneasy. It was like every time she said his name, a tiny crack formed somewhere in the back of my mind. One night, curiosity finally got the better of me. "Who exactly is this Ryan?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Melissa looked up from her phone, almost too quick, like she wasn't expecting the question. "Oh, he's just a client," she said. "He invests in real estate. And apparently, startups." Startups. That word hit me harder than it should have. "What kind of startups?" I asked. "I don't know," she said, shrugging like it didn't matter. "He just said he knows a lot about the tech world." Something about the way she said it felt rehearsed, like she had practiced the answer in her head before she said it aloud. And the strangest part, she didn't look at me after she spoke. She kept her eyes on her phone, scrolling like the conversation never happened. Over the next few days, the distance between us grew even more. She stopped leaving her phone around the house. Stopped letting it sit face up on the table. Stopped laughing the same way she used to. Whenever a message came in, she'd tilt the screen away from me or get up and leave the room completely. Her voice on those calls was softer, different, almost nervous. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. That maybe she was stressed. That maybe I was overthinking. But then one night I heard her whispering in the hallway. Her voice was low, cautious. "Yeah, I'll talk to him. No, he won't suspect anything. Just trust me." I froze. And when she noticed me watching, she hung up so fast the sound echoed. "Who was that?" I asked. She forced a smile, the kind you wear when you're hiding something. "A client," she said. "Just work." But her voice cracked, barely, but enough for me to hear it. After that night, her secrets became bigger. Her lies smoother. Her excuses sharper. She said she had more late showings with Ryan, more meetings, more dinners, more business conversations. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Who was this man who suddenly appeared in our lives? Why did he know so much about tech? Why was my wife talking to him late at night? The questions kept piling up, but the answers stayed hidden behind locked phone screens and cold smiles. And with every day that passed, the feeling in my chest grew heavier. Ryan Keller wasn't just a client. He was something else. Something I wasn't ready to see yet, but soon, very soon. I'd find out exactly who he was and what he wanted. I wish I could say I discovered the truth in some heroic way. But the truth showed itself because of one simple mistake. One small slip. The kind that changes everything. It was a Friday night. Melissa said she had a late showing with Ryan again. Her excuse came out too quickly, almost rushed, but I didn't argue. I just watched her grab her coat and leave without looking me in the eye. The house felt cold the moment the door closed. Quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful anymore. Just lonely. I walked into the home office to distract myself, but before I could sit down, I noticed something strange. Melissa's laptop was open, not locked, not closed, just sitting there. Screen glowing in the dark room. She never left it open. Never. It felt like the universe was holding its breath, waiting for me to take a step I could never undo. I hesitated. For a moment, I told myself not to look, not to invade her privacy, not to become the insecure husband. But then I thought about the late nights, the whispers, the way she said Ryan's name like it had a deeper meaning. So I walked toward the desk. A window was open on the screen. A PDF file still loading, as if she hurried away before closing it. The title alone made my stomach twist. Share Transfer Agreement, Daniel Cooper. My name. My company. My ownership. I clicked the document. Hands shaking. The world around me faded. There it was, my signature, perfect, clean, familiar, but not mine. It was copied, traced, placed onto a document I had never seen before. And right below it, Melissa's signature, approved, verified, witnessed. My breath caught in my throat. The transfer wasn't planned. It was already in motion. My shares, the shares I built from years of sacrifice, were set to be transferred to Ryan Keller. But it didn't stop there. Another document sat in the same folder. A prenup addendum. Dated only days earlier. If everything went through, she would walk away with half of everything, including future profits from my company. It wasn't a random act. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a plan. A plan she had carefully built. Without me. My hands trembled over the keyboard. I felt something break inside me, something deep, something heavy. It wasn't just sadness. It wasn't just anger. It was the pain of realizing the person I trusted the most had quietly prepared my downfall. I stared at the documents until the words blurred. I didn't cry. I couldn't. The shock was too strong, too sharp, swallowing everything else. In that moment, the truth hit me harder than anything ever had. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate, planned, calculated. And somehow, I knew this was only the beginning of a much darker secret. The night everything became clear didn't start with shouting or anger. It started with a door opening, quietly. At 11:32 p.m., I was sitting in the living room when Melissa walked in. She froze for half a second when she saw me awake, just long enough for me to notice. Her hair was messy. Her makeup was smudged. Her blouse was slightly wrinkled, like she had been somewhere she didn't plan to explain. And she wasn't carrying her work folder, the one she always took to show clients' houses. She saw me looking and quickly brushed her hair back, trying to compose herself. "Oh. Hey," she said, forcing a smile. "The meeting ran late. With a client?" I asked softly. She nodded too fast. Yeah, with a client." Her voice cracked on the word client. I didn't say anything else. Not because I believed her, but because I finally understood something. If I confronted her now, she'd lie. If I pushed her, she'd cover her tracks. If I reacted emotionally, I'd lose the one thing I needed most, truth. So I stayed calm, quiet, watching. She walked past me, heading to the bedroom. But the scent she left behind wasn't her perfume. It was a different cologne, stronger, masculine, and definitely not mine. My hands clenched at my sides, but I didn't get up. I didn't ask questions. I didn't demand explanations, because at that moment, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't just betrayal. This was strategy hers. And now, I needed my own. Over the next few days, I paid attention to everything. Every late-night text she hid. Every whispered phone call in the hallway. Every sudden smile she tried to hide when her phone lit up. Her patterns changed. Her habits changed. Her lies became smoother, almost practiced. But no matter how careful she thought she was, she slipped up again. I noticed a new contact saved under the name MK Staging. Melissa didn't handle staging. And I had already seen that number once, on a printed email signed by Ryan. That was the moment the final piece clicked into place. She wasn't just cheating. She wasn't just lying. She was working with him. Working for him. Pushing his agenda. Not mine. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her why. Why she chose him. Why she betrayed me. Why she thought I wouldn't notice, but emotions wouldn't save me. They wouldn't protect my company. They wouldn't undo the documents sitting on her laptop. So I made a decision, maybe the hardest decision of my life. I would not confront her. I would collect every clue. Save every screenshot. Store every message. Trace every step she took. Because if she brought this into the shadows, I would bring it into the light. Not in our home. Not in a fight, but in court, where lies fall apart, piece by piece. And on that night, as Melissa slept peacefully beside me, I quietly began preparing for the war she never expected me to fight. The morning after Melissa slipped up, I woke with a strange calm inside me. Not peace. Not acceptance. Something colder. Something sharper. The kind of calm a person feels when they finally know what they have to do, before the sun even rose. I called someone I trusted more than anyone at that moment, my attorney, Mark Stevenson. Mark wasn't just a lawyer. He was the kind of man who could see danger before it arrived. A man who understood betrayal better than most. When I walked into his office, he took one look at my face and said, "Tell me everything." And I did. Every late-night call. Every secret message. Every document I found on her laptop. He didn't interrupt once. He just listened. And the more I spoke, the tighter his jaw became. When I finished, he leaned back and said something I will never forget. "Daniel, this isn't emotional betrayal. This is financial sabotage. And she's not doing it alone." I nodded. "I know who's helping her." "Ryan?" he asked. "Ryan," I confirmed. That name felt heavier every time I said it. Mark opened his laptop and began searching. He typed fast, clicking through records, databases, old filings. And within minutes, the truth about Ryan Keller began to unfold. Ryan wasn't a wealthy investor. He wasn't a rising businessman. He wasn't even stable. He had 2 bankruptcies on record. A trail of failed startups. A history of manipulating partners and walking away when things collapsed. He wasn't building anything. He was hunting for someone who already had something built. And this time, he found Melissa. But the real blow came when Mark searched deeper. He found emails, messages, private threads Ryan thought he hid well. In those messages, Ryan wasn't just talking to Melissa. He was coaching her, telling her how to access my digital signature, how to copy my initials, how to file transfer paperwork without raising alarms, how to position herself to take half of everything once the dust settled. Reading those messages felt like a knife, twisting slowly inside my chest. It wasn't just betrayal. It was teamwork against me. Mark closed his laptop and said, "We need to move fast, before anything else gets pushed through." Within hours, he filed an emergency injunction, a legal freeze on the share transfer. If the court approved it, Ryan's little victory would be suspended, leaving him stuck in the trap he helped build. And just like that, the plan was in motion, not revenge through shouting, Not anger thrown across a kitchen table, but revenge built on truth, on facts, on proof. Mark looked at me and said, "We will confront them, but on our terms, in our arena. And when we do, they won't see it coming." For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of strength return to me. If Melissa and Ryan wanted to play games in the shadows, they were about to face the light. Some moments in life feel like walking into a storm you've trained your whole life to face. That was the feeling the day I invited Melissa and Ryan to my office. I called it a finalization meeting. I knew they would come. People who think they've won never turn down a victory lap. The conference room was prepared exactly as Mark planned. Documents neatly arranged. Screens ready. And the best part, the entire room legally recorded from the moment they stepped inside. Melissa walked in first. She looked confident, even a little excited, like she believed she was taking the last step toward her new future. Ryan followed behind her, wearing a smirk that made my stomach turn. He sat down like he owned the place. If only he knew what was coming. I started with a calm voice, the kind of calm that makes people nervous. "Thank you both for coming," I said. "Before we finalize anything, I want to review a few documents together." Ryan laughed softly. "There's nothing to review, Daniel. It's all done." Melissa nodded, avoiding eye contact. I slid the first folder across the table. "This is the share transfer form," I said. "The one with my signature." Ryan leaned forward to look at it, still smiling. "Yeah, that's the one. You approved it weeks ago." I looked him straight in the eyes. "No, I didn't." And that's when I placed the second folder on top of the first. "This is the digital signature log," I continued, my voice steady. "Showing your timeline, your access, and the exact moment my signature was copied and placed onto that form." Melissa's face drained of color instantly. Her hand went to her mouth. She looked at Ryan like she was silently begging him to fix it. But he couldn't. I opened another document. "And here," I said, "are the emails. Your messages to each other. The coaching. The instructions. The plan." Melissa whispered, "Daniel, please," but I raised my hand, stopping her. "No," I said. "Today you listen." I turned to Ryan. "You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I wouldn't fight back. But you forgot one thing. I built this company. Every line of code, every deal, every late night. You were never going to take it from me." Ryan tried to stand up, but Mark stepped into the room with two legal assistants behind him. "Sit down," Mark said firmly. "We're not finished." Ryan sat. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked unsure. Mark laid out the injunction papers on the table. "The transfer is frozen," he announced. "You can't touch a single share." Melissa looked helpless. Ryan looked exposed. Every lie they built was crumbling right in front of them. And then, Mark said the final line, the one that sealed everything. "This entire meeting has been recorded. Every word you just said is evidence." Ryan's smirk vanished. Melissa broke down completely. The trap was complete. They walked in thinking they owned my future. But they walked out realizing something completely different. I wasn't the one cornered, they were. Some people think courtrooms are quiet places. But the truth is, they feel like battlegrounds. Every word is a weapon. Every moment is a test. And on the morning of the hearing, I felt that weight pressing on my chest. Not fear, not doubt. Just the heavy understanding that everything I had built was on trial. Not just my marriage. Melissa and Ryan sat on the opposite side of the room. They didn't sit together. They didn't look at each other. That partnership had collapsed the moment the recording was revealed. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. My attorney, Mark, stood first. He presented our evidence slowly, clearly, the way a surgeon works, precise and calm. The forged signature. The digital timestamps. The email threads. The messages where Ryan coached her step by step. The access log showing she entered my files without permission, piece by piece. The truth built itself like a tower they could no longer push over. The judge asked Melissa to stand. When she did, her voice trembled. She tried to explain, but her words fell apart before she could form a full sentence. I didn't mean. I thought. She stopped and shook her head, trying to hold back tears. The judge asked, "Did you sign his name without consent?" She broke. "Yes," she whispered. "But Ryan told me." Ryan immediately stood up. "That's not true," he snapped. "She did it on her own. I didn't force her to do anything." Melissa glared at him, betrayal hitting her like a second wave. "You coached me," she cried. "You said it was safe. You said no one would find out." Their partnership cracked right down the middle, spilling every lie into the open. The judge raised a hand to quiet the chaos. "Enough," he said. "I have seen the evidence. I have heard both of you blame each other. But the facts speak clearly." The room held its breath. "The share transfer is invalid," the judge declared. "The ownership returns to Mr. Cooper entirely." I exhaled, the kind of breath you don't realize you've been holding for weeks. A wave of relief washed through me, not loud or dramatic. Just deep. Melissa collapsed into her chair, quietly crying. Ryan's face hardened, jaw tightening as if he still thought he could talk his way out of consequences. But the judge wasn't finished. "This court will also forward these documents for further review," he said. "There may be additional actions taken." The meaning was clear. Their trouble was only beginning. As the judge left, the courtroom emptied slowly. I didn't look at Melissa. I didn't look at Ryan. I just walked toward the exit, each step feeling lighter than the last. Justice didn't arrive with noise or drama. It arrived with truth. And in the end, truth was the only thing I needed. The courtroom door had barely closed behind me when I heard her voice. "Daniel, please, wait." I stopped, but I didn't turn around. I didn't want to see her face twisted with regret, only after the truth destroyed her plans. But part of me knew this moment had to happen, not for her, but for me. Slowly, I turned. Melissa was standing there, shoulders shaking, tears running down her cheeks. The same woman who once promised to stand by me now looked like she was standing in the ruins she created herself. "Daniel," she whispered, "I'm sorry. I never wanted it to go this far. I made a mistake. A terrible one. A mistake." That word felt almost insulting. Forging documents wasn't a mistake. Planning to steal my company wasn't a mistake. Working with another man behind my back wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. 1,000 tiny choices she made without hesitation. I looked at her, calmer than I ever expected to be. "You didn't make one mistake," I said. "You made a plan. And you followed it. Don't call something a slip when it was a strategy." She sobbed harder, reaching for my arm. "Please, can we fix this? Can we try again?" I stepped back. "No," I said gently. "We can't." There was no anger in my voice. No shouting. No bitterness. Just clarity. Because for the first time in months, I finally felt free. I walked away, leaving her standing alone in that hallway. Not out of cruelty, but closure. We filed for divorce a week later. She fought for pieces of the business, but the court shut it down instantly. Every document, every message, every lie she'd written had sealed her fate. She walked away with nothing from my company. Not a share. Not a profit. Not a seat at the table. She tried to steal. As for Ryan, he disappeared from Austin almost overnight. Rumor said he tried to start another scheme in another state. But people talk, and word of his downfall traveled fast. A man who once tried to take everything from me left the city with nothing but a stained reputation. Meanwhile, I stayed. I rebuilt. The company grew stronger. almost like it had been held back by hidden hands I never noticed until they were gone. I hired better people. I created stricter boundaries, not just in business, but in life, and slowly. The pain faded. Some days still felt heavy, but others felt brighter than ever. Because I finally understood something important. Losing someone who never valued you isn't a loss. It's a release. The real victory wasn't winning in court. It was stepping forward with a clearer mind, stronger walls, and a heart that finally remembered its own worth. What they tried to destroy, I rebuilt. What they tried to steal, I protected. What they tried to break became my strength. And as I looked at my life months later, I realized something powerful. Sometimes walking away isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a better one. If there's one thing this entire journey taught me, it's that betrayal doesn't always show up loud. It doesn't burst through the door or announce itself with warnings. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in late-night messages, in sudden secrets, in the small changes you try to ignore. Looking back now, I can see every sign so clearly. Every whisper, every shift, every moment where something felt off, but I told myself it was nothing. That's the strange part about trust. We offer it so easily to those we love, even when they stop earning it. I used to believe trust was something you give fully or not at all. But now I understand. Trust also needs protection, boundaries, awareness, and sometimes distance. When the truth finally exposed itself, it didn't destroy me like I thought it would. It shook me, yes. It hurt me deeply. But it also opened my eyes. I learned that betrayal doesn't break you. It reveals the strength you forgot you had. For months, I thought I was losing everything. My company, my future, my marriage, my stability. But in the end, I didn't lose anything that truly mattered. What I lost was what was already false. What I kept was everything built on truth. And that's where the real lesson lies. When someone tries to take advantage of your trust, you have two choices. You can react fast, fueled by anger. Or you can step back, stay calm, and let truth do what anger never will. Strategic patience. That's what saved me. Not shouting, not fighting, not chasing after lies. Just staying steady. Gathering proof. Letting their own actions expose them. It taught me that justice doesn't always arrive when you want it, but it arrives exactly when it should. I also learned something about myself. Something powerful. I realized that strength isn't measured by how hard you hit back, but by how wisely you choose your moves. Walking away from Melissa wasn't weakness. It was clarity. It was freedom. It was choosing peace over drama, truth over illusions. And now, standing on the other side of everything, I feel something I never expected to feel again. I feel whole, not because life is perfect, not because betrayal never happened, but because I grew from it. The pain, the lies, the heartbreak, none of it went to waste. It sharpened me. It taught me who I am when everything falls apart. And it showed me who deserves a place in my life, and who never did. So if there's one message I'd leave with anyone listening, it's this. Betrayal whispers before it explodes. Listen to the whispers. Protect what you build. And trust that truth is stronger than any secret, because in the end, I didn't just get my shares back. I got myself back, stronger, smarter, and far wiser than before. And if my story taught you anything today, it's that life doesn't always warn you before it breaks. But you can rise from the pieces, stronger, wiser, and unshaken. If this journey pulled at your heart, if you felt the betrayal, the suspense, the justice, then stay with me. Because every week I share stories just like this. Stories of strength after heartbreak. Stories of revenge served with patience. Stories where truth stands tall, no matter how dark the lie. So before you go, hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story that just might open your eyes or remind you of your own strength. And remember, even when someone tries to break your world, your comeback can be louder than their betrayal.